Can I get the mic? Okay, good. Now we're going to get a lot of feedback and evidently. Let's try this again. Okay. The November 1st meeting of the Scarborough Planning Board will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Doreen, please call the roll.
Rachel Hendrickson,
Yes.
Rick Meinking.
Yeah.
Roger Beely.
Yeah.
And Richard Dupere.
Here.
Absent is Jennifer Ladd. We do not have an alternate present. The planning board does have quorum. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for October 11th. Are there any emendations, corrections, concerns?
Madam Chair, I have a question. I was
Certainly.
not at the meeting last month, therefore I was going to vote. I wasn't going to vote, but given the fact that we're just got a quorum, what is my role at that point?
I was not at the meeting either, so I was going to abstain, so we would not have actually a majority of the board to approve these. So these minutes will be held over until the next meeting for approval.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, State Manufactured Homes requests a waiver of the recreation fee associated with the planning board approval of Pinecrest Manufactured Housing Community subdivision on April 12th, 2021. I'm going to lead this off. We received a letter from the Pinecrest State Manufactured Homes that says a couple of things. The first thing it says that it is going to we will be appealing to the town council and or planning board for reconsideration. Wording is important. It is not necessarily dispositive in this case, but this is actually not an appeal. You just say that you will be appealing. So at the point of an appeal, you actually have to say, we are appealing, not we will be appealing. We've done a great deal of research into the ability of the planning board to actually waive the recreation fee. And we can find absolutely nothing in the ordinances that requires us or gives us the ability to do so. My recommendation is therefore that actually you take this to the town council, because that is the authority that can actually waive that fee. I do not want to put you through a long hearing and then have us say, yeah, but we can't do anything about it. But we cannot find anything that actually allows us to do something. Usually when there is a waiver that the board can accomplish or vote on, it's very specific. The waiver itself is specific, and there's usually conditions attached to it to give us some guidance in terms of how that waiver would occur and whether the appeal meets those requirements. I'm going to suggest that State Manufactured Homes at this point requests that they makes a request to withdraw this application so that they can submit it to the town council. I think it would not do you any service to have something on the record where we say no, because we don't have the ability to do it. So it's to your benefit to take it to the appropriate people. And again, I would suggest that when you do it, please say that you are appealing, now, not that you're going to appeal. Do you make that request? All right, thank you very much. Please let the record show that State Manufactured Homes has requested to withdraw its application for a waiver for the recreation fee, and it will take that with the indication it will take that on to the town council.
I will be in contact with you and let you know. We have a couple of options, but I'll speak with our town clerk to decide the best matter forward for you guys to appeal. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you. And I appreciate, I understand the work that you did and the pictures and the information and everything that you've submitted to us actually remains here in the record. Thank you. Next item is a consent item. Next Gen Development LLC requests a site plan amendment review to construct a 9,900 square foot, two-story mixed-use building on Lot 35 in the Innovation District of the Downs. The property is further identified as Assessors Map U53, Lot 35. Eric?
Thank you. So Next Gen is requesting a amended site plan approval for a site at 225 Innovation Way, down towards the end of the Innovation District at the Downs. It would involve construction of a 9,900 square foot, two-story mixed-use building with residential units being able to be accessed from the front and commercial units being able to be accessed from the rear. Since the last review with the planning board, the applicant has been able to work with staff on items such as the alignment of the private way, curbing, as well as connecting the existing or the proposed sidewalk on the east side of the private way, instead providing a crosswalk across the private way and extending the sidewalk down towards the trail parking area. Staff has included a motion for the board's consideration with a few of these factors in mind. And with that, I would turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for the applicant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Nancy St. Clair. I'm here tonight on behalf of Next Gen Development LLC. I don't have a formal presentation prepared for you folks. As Eric had indicated, we have in the interim since the October 11th meeting with you folks, we worked very closely with staff and the peer reviewers in order to submit updated plans, which the board has, which the peer reviewers have had an opportunity to review. There may be a couple of minor items that they have for outstanding comments, but we certainly are prepared to work with them. And I think that the biggest hurdles have already been achieved as part of the process. So we're looking forward to your input tonight.
Nancy, let me ask you, you've received a copy of the draft motion. Have you had an opportunity to review?
I have, and there's just one thing I'd like to add. I know that there's been a couple of discussions in our memoranda with regard to the naming of the private way. We do have a proposed name as of today. It's Transformation Way. And I believe that that will do well to address condition 1D, which is to continue work with the E911 addressing process. We have this under review by the folks at the police office, and certainly it's up to them as to whether it's an acceptable name, but that is the proposal that we have before you folks.
Thank you very much. This item is subject to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment? Or is there anyone online that's raising their hands? No one? In that case, public comment period is over. Turn to the board. Is the board prepared to vote on this as a consent item? Or does it have additional questions? Roger, okay, we have one person who's prepared to vote. He came in just ahead of Roger. Roger, he's prepared to vote. Roger, do you have a question?
No, actually, the only question I was going to ask is staff satisfied basically with ongoing negotiations?
Yes, that's correct. And we've had our peer reviewers both at and on the civil engineering side and traffic engineering side of things look at these plan sets, and they're generally satisfied, and the conditions speak to that.
Okay.
All right, hearing no other comments, I have a draft motion for Next Gen. I move to approve the project titled Lot 35 mixed-use building proposed by Next Gen Development LLC as depicted on the plan set prepared by St. Clair Associates, stamp 9/26/22 with the following findings and conditions. Findings, the proposal will construct a new two-story mixed-use building with light industrial space on the first floor and 22 apartment units on the second floor. The proposed building would have a building footprint of 9,900 plus or minus square feet on lot 35 in the Innovation District at the Downs. The parcel is approximately 0.92 acre lot on Innovation Way. Waivers, section 4C1, to increase the maximum two-way residential driveway width from 24 feet to 25 feet. 2, section 4D2, to reduce the minimum drive aisle width from 25 feet to 24 feet on the south commercial side and 22 feet on the north residential side of the building, of the site, excuse me. Conditions: 1, prior to requesting a pre-construction meeting, the applicant shall A, resubmit and address any outstanding comments in the Traffic Solutions memo dated 10/21/22. B, resubmit and address any outstanding comments in the Haley Ward memo dated 10/21/22. C, resubmit and address any outstanding staff comments, including but not limited to snow removal plan. D, work with the town's 911 addressing officer in regards to addressing for the development and naming of the private way. E, the final approved site plan must include sign off from IDEX and that the design of the private way shown on the Next Gen site plan is the final version that will be constructed and is acceptable by all parties. This shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall A, provide necessary signage for addressing purposes. B, pay the traffic impact fees, total $9,508, Higas Parkway, US Route 1, $3,690. C, Dunstan Corner, $5,608. C, pay the recreation fee, $500 per unit. 3, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, A, the private way shall be constructed by the Downs applicant or otherwise. 4, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide a final signage plan. This shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 5, prior to the start of construction, a pre-construction meeting is required. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor, and is to be coordinated through the planning department. All plan modifications are to be completed prior to scheduling the pre-construction meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Roger Beely. The chair notes that Ms. St. Clair has indicated that that street is now on the point of being approved with a specific new name of Transformation Drive.
Transformation Way.
Transformation Way. But until that is confirmed, we're going to leave this motion as it is. Any additional discussion? In that case, Doreen, would you please call the roll?
Rachel Henriksen.
Yes.
Rick Meinking,
Yes.
Roger Beely.
Yes.
And Rick DuPerry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Item 7, consent item. AR Building request a site plan review to establish 10 multifamily structures on a 57-acre parcel located at 35 Mussey Road, assessors map R38, lot 1. Eric.
Thank you. So AR Building has been through several site plan review meetings with the planning board thus far. The project would construct 120 units total in 10 buildings at 35 Muzzy Road, as well as preserve 32 acres of open space in adjoining Warren Woods. Staff's main concerns up to this point have been coordination and timing of the offsite traffic improvements with the Downs team, with some of the work that they'll be doing as part of their TMP. Staff met with the Downs as well as AR Building on these improvements and the timing of them. A main DEP permit has also been furnished by the applicant. And with those two things addressed, we provided a draft motion for the board's consideration. With that, I turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Has the applicant seen the draft motion? Is the applicant here?
I think we need to promote Emily. But no, I don't believe she's seen it yet.
Could
Good
you
evening,
put-
everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you put can the draft motion go up on the screen so that the applicant can see it? While that's happening, let me ask the staff if the staff is confident that the applicant has addressed the remaining issues and that this is ready for consent.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Emily?
Yes, so I am reading the motion now. But everything here looks like what we have talked with staff about, so I am comfortable moving forward with this. So I don't have a formal presentation for tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the project that the board may have.
Thank you. We didn't expect a formal presentation, just your lovely presence. This is an item that is subject to a public hearing. Is there any member of the public in the room who would like to comment on this application? I recognize most of the faces. I'm pretty sure no. Is there any member of the public online that would like to address this? Any raised hand, any frantically waving hands? None. In that case, public hearing time is over. I have a draft motion. I move to approve the project titled 35 Mussey Road proposed by AR Building Company as depicted on the site plan set prepared by Deprete Engineering dated 8/19/22 with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the proposal would involve construction of 10 multifamily residential structures for a total of 120 units. The project is located at the intersection of Gorham Road and Payne Road and includes paved parking areas, landscaping, lighting, and off-site traffic improvements. Waiver, number 1, section 4D2 to reduce the minimum drive aisle width from 25 feet to 24 feet. Conditions: 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall A, provide plan sets showing the dumpster enclosures on site. B, formalize the easement area along Gorham and Mussey Roads as identified on sheets 5 of 7. C, work with the town's E911 addressing officer to provide a name for the access to buildings 1 through 5 and 6 through 10. D, address comments in the Woodward and Curran memo dated 9/13/22. E, address comments in the Traffic Solutions memo dated 9/16/22. F, relocate or provide the town right-of-way for the sidewalk area approaching and along Gorham Road as indicated in the staff memo dated 9/19/22. G, pay the traffic impact fees, total $53,513.10. Higas Parkway, US Route 1, $5,940. Dunstan Corner, $8,412. Oak Hill, $13,590. Payne Road, Zone 1, $448.29. Payne Road, Zone 2, $5,263.56. Payne Road, Zone 3, $4,491.45. Payne Road, Zone 5, $15,367.80. H, pay the recreation fee, $500 per unit. I, the applicant shall execute and record a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town. The form of the stormwater maintenance agreement is located in Appendix 1 of the Town of Scarborough's Chapter 419, Post-Construction Stormwater Infrastructure Management Ordinance. This shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Department. 2, the applicant shall design and obtain all local and state approvals for off-site traffic signal improvements at the 3 signalized intersections in 8 corners by September 1st, 2023. All underground facilities, i.e. conduits, signal pole foundations, mast arm foundation, handholds, etc., shall be fully installed by October 15th, 2023. 3, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide the final signage plan. This shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Department. 4, prior to the start of construction, a pre-construction meeting is required. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor, and is to be coordinated through the Planning Department. All plan modifications are to be completed prior to scheduling the pre-construction meeting. 5, prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall submit evidence in the form of a letter or plan prepared and stamped by a professional engineer who either prepared the post-construction stormwater management plan and its associated facilities or supervised the plan and facilities construction and implementation. The letter or plan shall certify that the stormwater management facilities have been installed in accordance with the approved post-construction stormwater management plan and that they will function as intended by said plan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Rick DePerry. Does the board have any questions?
Just one thing on the, I don't know
Roger?
if this is important, but. that should be fuzzy a little bit.
You're right. There should be, under the findings, the project is located at the intersection of Gorham Road and Muzzy Road and includes paved parking areas, landscaping, lighting, and off-site traffic improvements. So that shall be changed. It's de minimis. We can Thank you, Roger. Is the board ready to vote? Got some nods. Doreen, please call the roll.
Rachel Henriksen,
Yes.
Rick Manking,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
and Rick DePerry.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, item number 8, Group 1 Automotive, Inc. requests a site plan amendment review for 2 building additions totaling 2,215 square feet. The project is located at 137 US Route 1, Assessors Map U47, Lot 94. Eric?
Thank you. So Group 1 Automotive is currently in the process of amending both its site plan and its contract zone with the town. As the board is probably aware, there was a joint meeting with the town council and the planning board a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first step in the contract zone amendment process. And the applicant is now in the second step, which it's a 10-step process, but we've pretty much briefly summarized this into 6 steps. The second of which is to apply and receive preliminary site plan approval from the planning board. If the board is comfortable with the site plan as presented tonight, the application would then get put back in council's hands where they would hold a first reading and second reading, followed by voting on the contract zone, at which point it is recorded in the registry of deeds. And then at that point, the board would come back to the site plan and make a decision on the final approval. Staff has drafted a motion for preliminary site plan approval for the board's consideration to this effect. And with that, I would turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for the applicant. We have heard this. So if you could limit it to limit your presentation, if you would, to the comments that you see that are remaining.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Burke Air, for those of you who may remember me from last time. I'm the civil engineer for Group One for this project. And we received a few comments, and I'm going to open that letter up. I'll take them out of the order that they were in. The easiest comment is the fire department comment, which is that fire alarm and sprinkler systems must be extended into new addition areas. I can affirm that that is our plan, absolutely. The new additions will be, the whole building will be sprinkled and protected with the fire alarm system. We reached out to this, another comment was that we needed to work with the Scarborough Sanitary District to approve the additional capacity. And it turns out that this additional capacity is not actually due to our proposed addition. The facility is already running over the, I guess, the permitted capacity or the previously paid for reserved capacity. That's been going on for some time. I spoke with Dave at the Scarborough District, and he gave me some numbers back to 2019 and 2018 that there were some flows that exceeded the reserve capacity. Group One's actually only owned the dealership for a year, so this additional capacity item may be flagged by our project, but it really was already something that was happening. So we've agreed with the district to raise the capacity to 2,500 gallons as a peak flow, and the district has sent an invoice, which I forwarded along to the operations folks at Group One. So that's in the process of being paid. So by the next time we come in front of either, our next step will be city council, or town council. But that should be resolved here in the next couple of weeks once that check is cut. And then the comment that we received about stormwater was that even though there are some of the site has existing stormwater facilities, some of the site was developed with an agreement that it could, the stormwater flow could go directly to the DOT right away. That's mostly the front portion of the site. Our bigger addition is in the back, and we have a small addition in the front, and we actually have, I'll just point to it here on the site plan. A tiny little bit of.
You need to swing the mic around so that your voice is on the record.
That
Okay,
doesn't sound good.
thank you.
Maybe I should move this.
We have a breakage fee, yeah.
So the at the dumpster area is really what I was gonna point to.
Okay, now get that back without breaking it. Very good.
It is currently working. So at the dumpster area, there's a small amount of impervious area that will drain towards the front, towards that existing sort of grass basin that's got some riprap and gravel associated with it. That's a couple of 100 square feet of new impervious area. And then most of the new impervious area is at the back of the building. And we've proposed two different strategies, and my better strategy is the latter. And so that's the one I'm going to tell you about, because that's really our A plan now, is that in the area that's shown gray hatched on the bottom of that site plan. Here we go.
Your assistant's gonna do the
This-
pointing.
In this area, we're proposing to replace that existing pavement. It's just regular asphalt pavement today. And we're proposing to replace a section of that more than equals our increase in impervious area with a porous pavement system. And so that porous pavement system and its reservoir stone underneath will actually treat more area of stormwater than our additional impervious area. So I'm sure you guys have seen that before, but the way the porous pavement works is obviously the water flows through it, but also underneath the pavement, there's a reservoir area of 40% void space in the stone, which will be about 15 inches of washed stone underneath the pavement. And that volume over that proposed area equals about 1 inch of, which would be a water quality volume over the total area that drains to that piece of pavement. So that's something that we're going to have to work with your engineer and, show the drainage area maps, show the calculations But in strategy, I mean, I've done the preliminary calculation to see that that works. And so that'll offset our stormwater runoff, which is going to be small anyway. I mean, 2,000 square feet over a parcel of this size is really not a lot, but we'll be treating a little bit more than the amount of impervious surface that we're creating by taking away that little grass area at the back of the building. Those are the only three comments that we've received. There is one other slight change in the elevations from our previous meeting, and that's because the new vehicle delivery area was proposed to sort of go off of the back right corner of the building, and there's an elevation change back there of about 14 inches, and so we decided not to do that. So that actually changed our a door location a little bit on our proposed elevations. So that's a small change. We have those drawings here tonight. But instead of a glass door, it'll just now be glass wall because the grade change was too much to make up.
All right, thank you. If this survives the town council, when you come back to us, make sure that all of these changes that you talked about tonight are on the plan for us.
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you. This item is subject to public hearing. Is there anybody in the room who'd like to charge up to the mic? No, is there anyone online who would like to speak? No one? Declare the public hearing meeting over. I'm going to turn this over to the board members with a reminder that if they do go through make it through the contract zone and from the town council receive that approval, they will come back to us. Anything else?
I have no questions at this time.
All right, in that case, I have a draft motion. I move to approve the preliminary site plan of Mercedes-Benz of Scarborough proposed by Group 1 Automotive, Inc. as depicted on the plan set prepared by Ayer Design Group stamped 10/6/22. This preliminary approval does not constitute formal site plan approval, and the final site plan must be reviewed and approved by the planning board following the contract zone approval by town council. The preliminary approval is granted with the following findings and conditions. Findings. The proposal would add 2 building additions to Mercedes-Benz of Scarborough at 136 US Route 1. This includes a 1,745 square foot addition on the rear and a 470 square foot addition on the front for showroom, customer, and office space. Conditions address comments in the staff memo dated 11/1/22. Is there a second?
My turn. I second it, Madam Chair.
Okay, Rick Meinking, we now have everybody on the record as saying something. Good. In that case, Doreen, will you call the roll?
Rachel Henriksen,
Yes.
Roger Healy,
Yes.
Richard Dupere,
Yes.
and Rick Meinking.
Yes.
Preliminary approval passes. Thank you. The next item number 9, Crossroads Holdings LLC requests a master plan amendment review for the town center plan development area at the Downs, assesses map R52, lot 4. For the town, Eric, and I'm going to look at Dan and say, I bet you didn't really think you were going to get up here this fast.
Yeah.
Eric, please.
Speed meeting. So Crossroads Holdings is currently in front of the board with a request to amend a site plan for the town center at Scarborough Downs. The plan would be amended to reflect current projects such as the Higas Parkway entrance district and reflects the work of the downtown committee. The master plan is the second of three steps in the plan development process, with the subsequent step being formal subdivision and or site plan approval by the board. Staff comments seek to clarify district details such as utility location, street design, names, as well as setbacks. And with that, I would turn it back to the board and the applicant.
Thank you. And for the applicant.
Great. Dan Bacon here on behalf of Crossroads Holdings. Thanks for having me. I also have Drew Gagnon here on behalf of Coral Palmer to answer any questions I can't answer of you. I do want to do a presentation. So I don't know if I need to be a panelist. All right, thanks. Okay, great. Thank you. So we're really excited to be before the board this evening. It's been a long time coming. I was thinking about the original master plan approval, and I think the same board members were actually on the board at that time. So going back to spring of 2020 was when we first got the town center kind of master plan approved. And so this is really an amendment to that master plan. A lot is actually changing in terms of space and bulk requirements, the street design, cross sections, open space, a lot of the same elements, but we've made adjustments to kind of street layouts and the overall framework. But in large part, this already approved master plans remain the same. Also, since that time, we had the benefit of actually going through the state and federal permitting to kick off the town center. So around master plan approval back in 2020, we also went forward with Maine DEP and got approval for the stormwater areas that make up much of the town center, some Army Corps of Engineers permitting, and then I think as the board is well aware, we got the traffic permitting approved at Maine DOT for the TMP. So those are some things that have already happened, really kind of based on the original plan. Another really key thing that happened over this time period is our work with the downtown committee. So in early 2021, the town initiated a downtown committee to work kind of hand in hand with us. It was a really great committee. Also, it was made up of 2 town councilors. Karen played a key role. Tom Hall played a key role in that process. And we learned a lot through that process in terms of some additional things to plan for and design for. So that informed certainly this master plan amendment. Some of those things revolved around kind of the key need for housing near the town center or integrated right into the town center to kind of be active for 24 hours a day, to have people living in and around the town center for its success. So we've incorporated that into the plans. Also, the key need for some anchors, like a grocery store anchor, medical anchor, other kind of key anchors that draw daily and weekly activity into the town center to be successful. And we also spent a fair amount of time thinking about a gathering place within the town center, sort of a central square, and some elements that would make that successful. And one of the kind of the key findings of the committee in working with us and thinking about other models, looking at other models for these modern town centers, is that kind of central gathering place be more of like a collision space. It's described actually in the report, where it's not like a broad town green that you think of in historical centers, but it actually be mixed use itself and have activities such as dining, plaza space, some space for recreation, but it really to be kind of more activated and more compact. So that was the downtown committee process, again, quite successful, informed some updates in our layout that we'll talk about this evening. And now kind of here we are in terms of this amendment to the already approved master plan. Just gonna go to the next. So Eric already touched on this, but this is, I guess, step 2 of the process and the town center plan development amendment. A lot of the kind of the planning work, engineering work obviously comes next through subdivision. We expect there to be a few different phases of the town center that would come forward with the board to the board for subdivision review. And then, of course, individual site plans, as you know, and then building permit and construction. And we do have some end users that are already quite excited about the town center and are thinking ahead. So we're really anticipating kind of that subdivision site plan review process to be really a kind of winter work with the board over the course of December, probably through to springtime, to enable kind of construction starts at the end of the springtime in 23. So to kind of get into more specifics around where we're talking about, as Eric indicated, our past master plan approval actually included the Higas Parkway District. That's not included in this amendment. That area is moving forward already. So this is zeroed in on kind of the town center district, and to orient the board and also those viewing from home. This is really the area that's south of Innovation District, coming off Payne Road, down the existing Scarborough Downs Road from Innovation Way, into the area that today is where the grandstand is, where the clubhouse is, the parking, or former parking for the harness racing facility, the field area, and then some surrounding area. The border towards Higas Parkway is the Willowdale Brook. And really where Market Street's being constructed today and kind of leaving off and would be extended into the town center district next year. And then on the easterly side is the boundary is really the edge of the old harness racing track in that vicinity. And then to the south, it's the town center residential district that's well underway. And the edge is really the Redico site, that senior housing site that the board's reviewed and approved, that's now under construction. This is zoomed in a little bit further. This is just a diagram that shows the specific area that I'm referring to. So in terms of the specifics of the amended master plan, as the board knows, the master plan is bubble diagram kind of level. And this is the proposed conceptual master plan, again, updated from the one that's already approved. And like in other areas in the project or other plan development districts, we use kind of color variations in bubbles that define kind of the different characters of the areas of that particular district. So kind of working into the town center from Higas Parkway and Market Street is probably the easiest way to explain it. You'll see sort of the greenway. That's the conservation corridor for Willowdale Brook. There's a setback, and there's actually a conservation easement that applies to Willowdale Brook. And then you'll see sort of a darker orange. That's a mixed use area. And well, the whole town center would be mixed use, but that's a mixed use area that we anticipate is gonna have more of kind of retail commercial character. That's an area that's closest to the external road network, which would make the most sense for kind of retail, such as grocery, other commercial uses, before you get into kind of the heart of the town center. So it's not limited to those uses, but that we anticipate that those are more of the priority of uses in that particular area of the town center. The purple that you see that's further in, right at the intersection of Market Street and Scarborough Downs Road, that's where we see really kind of that core downtown area, if you will, where we'll have the most kind of compact development, where you have sort of those mixed use buildings where there's probably mostly commercial on the first floor, non-residential on the first floor of many of those buildings, and second, third, fourth, upper stories would be residential office. And that's kind of that core. It's not Main Street because it's Scarborough Downs Road, but that Main Street character that we anticipate generally in that vicinity of the town center. The orange, the lighter orange that kind of surrounds those two bubbles, that too will be mixed use, but we see that more as a combination of residential and commercial, where particularly towards the town center residential to the right on the screen, we anticipate that largely to be kind of more multifamily residential. And then on the side towards Payne Road, again, that could be some residential, could be some medical, commercial, but not necessarily those mixed use buildings that have commercial and residential on the upper stories. And then right in the core is what we envision to be kind of that central square, where we're showing that as green. And again, it's that collision space that we worked with the downtown committee on. So you'll see with future subdivisions and site plans, that's likely to be, again, kind of mixed use, but that more kind of civic space where there can be plaza, green space, some dining, some activity, but they're really kind of the hub and the primary kind of amenity space within the town center. So those are kind of the real key kind of gradations in our layout. And again, it's sort of bubble diagram level and similar to what we've shown you in other planned development districts. In terms of another criteria in the master plan amendment is open space plan. And so this shows kind of the broader elements. We've updated this since staff comments and some staff discussion, kind of showing some different levels of open space. So overall, and this is obviously master plan level, so we're about 65 acres, more or less, of designated kind of open space, a combination of kind of natural areas, greenways, and some gathering space. And we've added what's deed restricted to this diagram. So we already have a large vernal pool area that's going to be that's already deed restricted through our DEP approval. And then we have conservation restrictions along the Willowdale corridor and a required 100-foot buffer to a tributary stream. So in total, all in all, sort of deed restricted open space is around 18 acres. And that's 12.5% of the overall planned development area. The requirement is 10% in terms of open space in general. But that's just showing that we're exceeding just through the deed restricted open space, kind of that requirement. But we'll certainly have well in excess of that sort of overall with natural area and open space within the town center at about 65 acres. Another submission requirement and thing that we've expanded on since our staff comments and discussions with staff is a connectivity plan. So this, we're showing connectivity not only with roadways, but also sidewalks, multi-use paths, and trail system. So within your original submission, it was just showing a connectivity plan and trails within the town center. So this graphic we've added to address staff comments, and it's I think beneficial for everybody to kind of see connectivity not only within the district but outside with the rest of the project, and how the sidewalks and multi-use paths then connect to the trails that are either already in place or will be in place and are planned over the next few years within the project overall. So you see connections down to the Higas district, through through the Higas district over to a trail that parallels Market Street and connects Higas Parkway with the Downs Road. You see connections to the sidewalk and trail system in Town Center residential. And connections off-site that can go to Sawgrass neighborhood, potentially can go to some state land that we need help with the town on to be able to kind of make that connection with the state. And then connections up to the Innovation District and beyond into Warren Woods and the Land Trust property. Zooming out even further, this plan shows really broader connections. So this zooms out and shows in white the town center plan development area, and then the overall project. And then it illustrates Warren Woods and how the connections are being made to the Land Trust property. In the upper left of this image, the connections trail and sidewalk connections over to Sawyer Road, over to municipal campus and the schools, including Memorial Park. The connections out on Higas Parkway, and as part of our DOT and town traffic improvements, we're going to be making crosswalk improvements across Higas Parkway and then up to the Beacon and on to the Cabela's site. And then even along Route 1, we're making sidewalk improvements in both directions from our intersection with Route 1 that then can tie into the broader framework, can tie into the Eastern Trail, can tie into other facilities that are accessed off of Route 1. Also, a key component of master plan is the preliminary infrastructure plan. So this has been updated from the current approval to realign infrastructure with the current framework and the current road grid and layout. And so this shows your water, your sewer, electrical service, stormwater, sheds, and obviously a key component of this is the electrical approach, and where we're going underground for the town center design. And we show that kind of right at the key kind of thresholds coming into town center, close proximity to on the south side, which is the right side on this plan, close proximity to the pump station, which is under construction right now, really before you get into the town center on both sides of Scarborough Downs Road. So that's at a point that's provides for kind of coming from overhead to underground. Again, not in front of buildings, not in front of development on both sides of the street, but in a fairly just, discrete location where you expect that type of infrastructure close to the sewer pump station. The other side is similar, where we would go underground right at the wooded edge as you come into town center from Payne Road before development opens up on both sides of the street. And then from there, we're working on, and we're beginning to work on our three-phase underground power network. We've engaged CMP very early in this process, earlier than they would typically work with anybody. Typically, they wait till you have an account number and specific end users, and we're working very close with them early on so that they have a good understanding of the layout, the loads, and the design expectations, so we can be in good position with that design. So that's what this plan shows, and we've updated it since receiving staff comments to address the questions raised. Now I'm going to briefly just jump to our stat sheet. It's probably hard for you to read at this scale, and I apologize for that. But we wanted to provide this, and we've been doing it every master plan, where we kind of give you an update, on key stats, key metrics in terms of total area of each district, the unit count or lot count with each district, our open space projections, or in some cases, it's actually the actuals after they're complete. General roadway lengths, general sidewalk lengths, trails, and wetland impacts. So this is something we want to provide to you as a matter of course. The other key thing that we're providing here is the statistics at the bottom of the screen on affordable housing. So we have a 10% requirement within the project. We're actually well beyond that right now through deed restricted affordable at 77 units. As of right now, it's a little less than 20%, around 18% of the, so it's obviously exceeding the requirement, but we're not necessarily stopping there. In town center, there's an affordable housing project that's eager to kind of get going, 3i Home, which you may have heard about or read about. They're likely moving forward as one of the first end users in the town center, and they would actually be an affordable housing project for disabled residents. And they're very excited about the town center and what it can provide in terms of the setting for that type of housing, accessibility to commercial, to maybe some medical services, to employment, and being in sort of a walkable mixed use place. So again, they would likely move forward, and that's going to come down to funding, as it always does with affordable projects. And we're very excited about that, which enables us to continue to kind of proceed with sort of exceeding our affordable housing requirements. So the other element I wanted to speak to was kind of the street sections, the road designs, and where we anticipate those generally applying. Again, we're early in terms of specific engineering, but in looking at the character of the different streets, we're providing these delineations to show the various segments that correspond with the different street designs. And so we're using generally what we used with the original town center approval. But like I said, the road layout and network is changing. So down/Main, we're calling it Main Street, not because it's going to be called Main Street, but like the character of the street is a Main Street design. So in the dark red, or the solid red, I should say, that's where we're anticipating that street cross section where you have, and I'll jump to the cross section where you have generally 2 lanes of traffic. We'll likely have 3 where turn lanes will be needed, but generally 2 lanes of traffic, on street parking on both sides of the street, and then street trees, sidewalk, right of way 70 to 80 feet. That's really going to depend on utilities and final design, working with the town and the utility companies. And then a frontage zone, and we'll clearly delineate that where it goes from public to private. But the anticipation of a frontage zone is a great place for outdoor dining, a place that feels like a sidewalk but has kind of private control, so that it can be maintained privately and not an obligation for the town, and can be programmed accordingly based on the business that's along that frontage. The other street shown on this section is the tertiary roads or streets, tricky word to say. More of the side streets within the town center. On this diagram, it's those streets kind of radiating east from Downs Road and providing kind of access and connections in that direction. And again, this diagram shows primary streets in the master plan. There could be additional streets as the design evolves that provide access points within the project. But that's where we anticipate those 2 street cross sections applying. And then in terms of Market Street, Market Street, we anticipate the cross-section shown as Market Street extending the existing Market Street on Higas Parkway up to a point, about halfway into the town center where it goes, the character kind of changes more towards that downtown mixed use development pattern. And that's what we're showing there. And the Market Street cross section is as such where there's 2 lanes of travel, in some cases, some turn lanes to get into various sites as needed. Some on-street parking. In this context, the multi-use path that's being installed on Higas Parkway will be extended into the town center to have good continuity for that use. Another staff comment that was a good one that we're addressing here in this diagram is kind of town center street thresholds. And what we mean by thresholds are kind of locations where there's traffic calming measures that are employed to slow traffic, to signal that you're entering a more congested, a more even more pedestrian friendly, kind of busy central mixed use and business district. And again, these are approximate locations, kind of windows of where that would occur on both sides of Scarborough Downs Road and coming down from Payne Road from the north and coming up Payne Road, coming up Downs Road from town center from the south. And these are only concepts at this point, but traffic calming elements that we'll work with the board on at the subdivision level, where there are narrowing, curb extensions, raised medians, crossings that really kind of neck things down and slow traffic and change the context. And really kind of break up the straightaway effect that Scarborough Downs Road would have if you didn't provide these types of treatments. I think lastly, I just have a few kind of bullets around sustainability. That's certainly comes up often. And these aren't ordinance requirements, but there are certainly goals and things that we're doing and have been doing and want to continue to do moving forward, and particularly in the town center, which provides opportunity for achieving a lot of those kind of broader sustainability goals that a town center design can achieve. And so obviously on multifamily sites, particularly the last few, we've been ramping up kind of the EV integration. And with the Hackamore project, installing EVs up front, that would handle about 10% of the parking spaces and the residents, and we started to talk to Revision Energy and have them help us with kind of specific designs, both on that site, but moving forward with the town center. And that's their recommendation for the next 3 to 5 year period in terms of expectation around EV use. Right now in Maine, I think it's under 2%, but installing for 10% with chargers and then continuing to do conduit to enable, doubling and tripling of that, should that happen with residents. So we would continue to do that in town center on kind of multifamily sites. And then we want to work with them on other technology ideas around whether it's in more kind of public parking spaces, like on-street spaces. That's actually pretty common in other countries. It's not common in Maine. At least opportunities for that, or other opportunities for kind of pretty deliberate charging. So they're going to be working with us on ideas and how to phase things in, because obviously that technology is changing. So that's ongoing. solar and solar ready technology. You know, we've consistently been doing conduits in apartments that we control. And there's been a lot of, especially in the innovation district, end users that have been moving forward with solar as the economics work for their particular business. And of course, you know, we've talked about this before, focusing on kind of electric heating in particular, which continues to be the primary heating and cooling source within various buildings that we're involved in. And then really kind of looking at the transportation sector, and we've done some work on the Maine Climate Council and what they're observing. And actually, transportation is over 50% of emissions within the state based on their research. And so in reading through the recommendations around the transportation sector, this type of project, particularly the town center project, where it's highly walkable, you're designing for walking, it's transit ready, et cetera, coupled with having EV chargers and just sort of the layout in terms of having the mixed use and being able to do multiple things without getting back in your car is, for a community like Scarborough, pretty much it's like the best you can do. So, or is the model, if you will, and what's being referred to. So we feel like the more we can work on the town center design to be that really convenient place that reduces car trips once you're in the project, or if you're living in the project, and creating opportunities to work in the project, and continuing to work with the town, but also the transit providers about how we can get the operators to come inside with bus service. We can really kind of hit a home run on that. So again, these aren't, in terms of many of the specifics aren't, you know, plan development requirements, but we wanted to recognize that these are important goals that we continue to kind of work towards. So I think with that, I'll stop there and make sure I know there was maybe a few other staff comments I didn't incorporate into my remarks, so I want to make sure I touch on those. I think one of them was a connection to innovation district from town center. And timing of that. So the intention with the town center project, obviously it's going to be phased. We're going to be making improvements to Scarborough Downs Road. But as part of making that, you know, that connects town center with Innovation Way, but as part of making those improvements, you know, bringing it more up to public street standards, we're going to maintain an access point. So we will work through kind of the construction sequencing of that to make sure that remains open. And so that connection will always be in place. There may be, you know, construction, detouring, et cetera, to enable the improvement to the roadway, but that will always be in place. You know, barring, you know, with those types of logistics, a connection around the backside, if you will. At this point, we don't have a master plan in place for that area. So there is not a time schedule for that. That's largely going to be based on market demand decisions that are made in that area of the project. And then, you know, moving forward with the board on a master plan for that area. So we're not in a position right now to set a time frame for making that connection. And I don't know that we need to make a connection necessarily in terms of the overall, you know, this plan development, but we're interested in board comment on that. So I think with that, I'll turn it back to the board for questions.
Thank you, Dan. This is an item that is available for public comment. I'm not going to ask if there's anyone in the room. Is there anyone online? We do not have anyone online. Therefore, a public comment period is over. And I will turn this over to the board. This wonderful panel of folks, I'm going to start with Roger. Just run down the line.
Thank you. Dan, when you did your presentation, did you put this up on the screen?
This is our cover page. No, I think I skipped that. Sorry.
Did you?
It's on the screen now.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking you that is because I think it's important for the public, if they're watching this, to be able to get an idea of what's going on here. This is, I personally, I think this is pretty exciting, and I think it'd be helpful for the public to get some understanding of what we're talking about. So when you refer to Main Street, you're basically talking about Scarborough Downs Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's probably important to just clear that, because when I was reading through the material, I couldn't find Main Street.
Yeah, no, I apologize for that. We'd use the term main more as like a descriptor, but we probably shouldn't have. So Scarborough Downs Road, when it's extended kind of north from where it leaves off today, will kind of take on the character of a main street, from a
Sure, yeah.
layout standpoint.
The two other things, and I understand this is just a concept, so I'm just
Mm.
asking this
Mhm.
in addition to my own interest for the public's information. In the materials, you talked about the grandstand.
Mhm.
Could you just, now in this page you have up there, is that the grandstand that's in the middle there with the?
So that what's in the middle is a aspirational kind of image of a mixed use building that would in a way kind of take on the architecture, of the grandstand in terms of a flat roof, in terms of its structure, but wouldn't be the existing grandstand. So what we talked about with the downtown committee is the grandstand, after a lot of review, really isn't economically viable to redevelop. It's not the right size, it's not in the right location, and it's like building 3 buildings in one to enable it to be kind of a focal point in the town center. So to pay kind of homage to kind of the grandstand form and the character of it, we've thought about a building that's in the kind of the central square that is unique and has some kind of remembrance, if you will, in terms of design of the grandstand, but can be kind of purpose built. So it can be useful, it can be the right size, and can be kind of a focal point. So this is a concept, I'm sure it'll take on other iterations. But that's the intent there, Roger, is it could be a brew pub, it could be a restaurant with some space that can be used for different events, and then has some open air space that can be, again, used for a variety of different things, depending on the season, depending on it's a weekday or a weekend, and be kind of a pretty interesting focal point for the project and for the community.
The reason I asked that is, again, reading the material, I get the impression that you were basically going to demolish most of the grandstand and just keep a portion of it.
That was talked about with the downtown committee a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And again, after a lot of study by architects and construction specialists, it was determined that it's more practical to do something new that has kind of the elements of what you described.
Okay, sure. I from the very beginning, I didn't think the grandstand had much of a chance of surviving anyways.
Yeah.
But I understand you had to go through that process. One last thing, on the gathering area, the park.
Mhm.
I just want to weigh in on my opinion on what that should be. I like the narrative on this, where you want to have a gathering area.
Mhm.
We have a lot of areas in town where trails and things like that, they're not necessarily gathering places unless you're passing somebody, but there's no real gathering spots. And I keep, every time I think about this park, I go back to, a place in New York City, Bryant Park. I don't know if anybody's ever been there.
Mhm.
It's, have you? It's not big, but it's just such a gathering spot. It's just a terrific gathering spot. And it's just a place you go and you could sit there and just watch people. It's just a real gathering spot. And I think something like that would be terrific if, so check that out, okay?
We will, and I'm familiar with Bryant Park, and the consultant that worked with us as well as the committee members who did. So there was subcommittees of the downtown committee, and one of them was the modeling committee, and they actually went out and looked at other successful kind of modern mixed-use communities, town centers. And the common theme, both of our consultants' recommendations and their findings was that bigger is not better. Intimacy and having amenities and having the right scale is actually better for a gathering place, because you can have too big of a park where you're not comfortable. You don't see somebody, they're not close enough to interact with, so you actually stay, you don't interact. And there's not enough amenities and vitality to kind of draw people to it. So the recommendation was actually to be smaller, have a lot of activities, and quality of space, not kind of sort of quantity of space.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Rick? Rick number one.
I was here first.
Rick number one is the one sitting closest to me.
Never. Dan, you did a really good job of presenting. I kind of had one question for the whole thing, that I was looking through all the paperwork trying to find it. So on the sidewalks and the public way, or the paths, I guess I'll call them. Is that what we called it? We called it a let's see, public trails. So on the legend, it's called a public trail. And I know you gave some sheets that showed the sidewalk, some layout stuff, but is there a design performance standard on the public trails that you guys are following? Are they all 8 feet wide? Are they all packed gravel? Can you ride a bicycle on it? Things like that.
So we have basically three different kind of standards. We have multi-use path that are within kind of the town right of ways. The example is on Higas Park, the Higas district, from Higas Parkway into the town center, and actually from Downs Road coming up from town center residential. Those are paved 8-foot wide multi-use paths. They're in the location of a sidewalk, but you can bike on it, you can jog on it. So that's one. And then in some locations, we have kind of gravel paths that you also can drive on it can be maintained and provide access to other utilities, but it's more of a gravel path.
So is
And
it a certain width? How about the one, just for example, the one that goes from the town center over to Costco? On the Scarborough down.
that would be the first multi-use path. We anticipate that being paved and basically a wide sidewalk with an esplanade between the path and the roadway, where you'd ride a bike, you'd jog, you'd walk on it, and it's
Okay.
paved. The other two really depend on our environmental approvals. I was going to say the third one is more of our organic path that we aren't treating for stormwater, that is kind of more working through the woods and is more, more primitive, if you will.
Okay.
But that's not what's planned
For
on the
example,
Downs
the
Road.
multi-use path that connects the town center over to the gateway, to the
That would be a
Costco
paved,
and where Throttle is and all the places that people are gonna want to go.
that'd be a
That's-
paved path, that, like a wide sidewalk.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the main one. And then I was just wondering if I looked through the design and performance standards, and there's a lot of definitions in here, but I didn't see anything that really defined the paths, but it makes sense that you're gonna do the best you can with whatever the DEP lets you do, right? That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Rick number two.
Thanks, Dan, for your presentation. It was insightful and exciting at the same time. One of the things that I noticed in your timeline at the very beginning, as you were going through how we got to where we are today, I think you missed a key aspect is during that period, a new comprehensive plan was approved.
Mhm.
And in that had the expectations of the Scarborough residents. And my question to you regarding that is, now that you're before us with an amendment, what sort of things have you brought in from that comprehensive plan that wasn't in your original plan? And could you explain how this new amendment will follow or be in line with the new comprehensive plan?
Sure. Well, it's my understanding with the new comprehensive plan, a lot of the Downs expectations are similar to the old comprehensive plan in terms of the growth area, in terms of the zoning expectations for the Downs. I think what's changed particularly since 2020 for the project is really kind of the housing piece in terms of housing affordability. That's changed a fair amount over a 2-year period, 3-year period. And I think that's represented quite well in this comprehensive plan versus the old one in terms of not only meeting affordable goals, which is in here, but also goals for kind of workforce housing, housing in between deed restricted affordable and in market rate. And this project's been quite successful the last couple of years and would continue in the town center, kind of meeting those newer expectations in the comp plan. I think in addition to that, in the current comp plan, there's even more emphasis on complete streets and transit and transportation, walkability, bikeability, all those things, than the 06 comp plan, and this town center update even more emphasizes that. And then along those same lines, I think it's the sustainability pieces and trying to move the needle on a lot of those things, recognizing we have a lot of other demands of us, but like on my last slide is trying to continue to move the needle on EV initiatives and related initiatives.
Thanks. There was a buzzword that you said, workforce housing, that was important to hear. In that now, as we start to bring in commercial retail, dining, and those kind of things, tip workers, so to speak. One of the things that I think you have bragging rights about is the whole idea of being a place to live, work, and play. And I think those are the folks that you want to make sure that we have adequate housing for, that are, affordable for the workforce. And I think you've mentioned that, so I thank you for that. I also thank you for the sustainability. Well, I don't thank you. I think you're doing the appropriate things. I'm not trying to be selfish here, but I respect, you folks as developers wanting to come in here and do something impactful. And when I say impactful, I also look at it as a responsibility of you to do it smart and sustainable, resilient, and in the best interest of Scarborough as the town. With that said, just a couple of things that might want to just put in the back of your head is the idea of bicycle rental opportunities so that you can get around. I was fortunate enough, I actually missed last board meeting because I was down in Hilton Head, and it was neat because I rented bicycles. They were delivered to our timeshare, and they came with a padlock even. And I spent the entire week on my bicycle going to the beach And the pavement had stop signs on it for the bicycles to say, stop. You've got, traffic coming through. And I said, this is what it's all about. And so I wanted to bring that up in terms of maybe an amenity as you start to look at who's going to be your tenants in this downtown area.
It's a great idea.
I also am very pleased to see that there were no natural gas pipes put in, or was that a oversight? On the utility plan, I didn't see any natural gas, so that's great. You're going all electric, that's great too. But now I want to talk about the electric. As an amendment, it kind of thing like opens things up for conversation again.
Mhm.
And I would think that it would be to everybody's benefit if we looked at going underground from the point in which it enters into that open space on the Downs Road. I know back early on, prior members of the board said to the Downs, if you're on the Downs Road, you can go overhead. And then we certainly talked about the downtown area being underground. And for the most part, you have sketched that out here. There's this one that goes from the Main Street, as Roger calls it, which is Scarborough Downs, and heads to the east up into the outer track area that is overhead. And I would think that we should try to get that underground. And I know from previous conversations about overhead, underground, and the breaker systems the breaker poles you have to put in, the air brakes that are required. I would think that maybe there's an opportunity to get that wire underground as we turn into and heading into the downtown district from the innovation district. And on the south side there, maybe we can bring the wires underground a little earlier before it gets into your right where the detention or the waste stormwater drain system is. So that's my comments on the electricity or the overhead electric versus an underground electric. Please take that under consideration. Couple other things that maybe you want to consider is there a possibility of incorporating some on-site generation while you're doing the two stormwater basins? There's an opportunity to maybe put some platforms down and put some solar panels on those so that we could actually tie into the underground electric system and actually supplement where we need. As we're going all electric, it'd be nice to have some on-site generation to kind of fill that or block that off or check it off the list of the great things that the Downs is doing for the community here, the environment, and the visual impacts that it can make. I look forward to seeing this, as you start getting the built environment in. One of the things that we have in our comprehensive plan is higher standards of building construction, and possibly bringing in some of Maine native woods and things of that nature to be used in some of these buildings. I don't know if you've been following the timber building that's going on in the Rock, but that's using some of the Maine forestry products. And it would speak well for the Downs that we're, keeping some of the Maine gems in Maine. You do it with the landscaping and you do it with those kind of elements. Let's consider, as you talk to your potential tenants or buyers of the land here, that this is where Scarborough's vision is with our comprehensive plan and how we want to move forward with our built environment. I noticed, Roger had you put that picture up and I noticed the white roofs that are associated as kind of a way of, keeping the cool island
Yeah.
on top. Conducive for, very efficient rooftop units that are all heat pump driven. I noticed you put that in your narrative and I think you're going in the right direction there. So I think I'm very excited. It's one of the big reasons why I enjoy being on this board is seeing the evolution of what's going on in the Downs and how time has changed and the way we're doing things is changing. And I think it's all for the benefit of our town folks. So I look forward to continuing our conversations and seeing how these things are laid out. And what's interesting is right next to, as you're coming in from the south in the American House, that is going all electric, which is really exciting. I heard that they were doing VRFs and everything like that for that entire building. So that's exciting. So you've got a nice anchor coming into the downtown district. And my final comment is, I just want to let the public know that they included in our packet was the ad hoc Downtown Development Committee. And in the very last page, they said, is the hope of the committee that this report will serve as a valuable resource to the planning board as they review and consider approval of the master plan for downtown portion of the project. I'm here to tell you that I've read this numerous times, and anything I say or any commitments or any input I give to you folks is based on the hard work that these individuals did in conjunction with the Downs representatives. And I think you've worked well together. And I thought it was a really good report. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Roger has another comment.
Yeah, just, well,
I said he could, guys.
Yes.
Playing off of Rick's comments about the bicycles, he got me thinking about, I know we haven't talked about this at all, but how are we gonna handle if some residents wanna purchase golf carts and ride them around, going to the, like down there in the first section that was developed, or even further out? Some people aren't gonna be able to ride a bike or even walk, they may well. Just a thought, because some large places, large developments do offer.
I don't know the rules about driving. We have a lot of private ways when alleys, so maybe they're allowed on those. I don't
Yeah.
believe they're allowed on public streets, but town would know the answer to that question. I think one of the common things there are in a lot of cities is electric scooters and obviously e-bikes. So
Yeah.
that's more of a middle ground in terms of what might happen,
Well,
might
just-
be
just
permissible.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't, go buy one and want to motor around there. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Dan, is the American, is it American House or American Home?
I think it's American House.
American House?
think so.
They're they're preloading, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, are any of the sites on the downtown area gonna require any kind of preloading? Are you,
Yeah, they will.
okay,
Or just an alternative approaches to the foundations, so there's different ways to handle poor soils, but there'll likely be a combination of the two, lightweight fill or preload or other ground improvements.
okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And I believe golf carts are not street legal. So if it's a regular street, they can't be on there. But to your point, if it's an 8-foot trail, asphalt trail, it's possible that some folks will find that is a way to go. And at that point, the Downs is going to have to consider what sort of traffic rules they want for the trails. My colleague at the end, Rick Meinking, was his eloquence in terms of the work that you've done and your vision. I hardly second that. And he said it better than I could. And I'll deny I ever told him that. There were a couple of other things that the staff had as a comment. One was that the applicant should consider ways to connect the two open space areas to create a contiguous natural habitat, as those are both considered significant wetlands. Have you done any thought or consideration around that sort of a connection?
Very preliminarily, because we just got the comments, but Drew and I will work together on seeing what kind of, and work with staff on ideas for that kind of habitat connection, underneath the Downs Road when it's improved from its existing conditions to more of a public standard. So I think we can figure out, some connection points that make sense.
All right, thank you. In the original plan, there was an extension. There was the extension of Center Street, which could still happen in the future, but not as part of this. Is not as part of this master plan. But there also was an additional road. And my memory says that Scarborough Downs Road was going to be ultimately eliminated once you get into the town center, and there was another road that was going to connect to Center. So is that done now? Is that?
Yeah, that was because we were actually going to totally remove Scarborough Downs Road from the intersection of Innovation Way all the way to where on this plan it shows Town Center District. So there would have been a road that goes around on this plan, the wetland north of that vernal pool location, north of Scarborough Downs Road, or plan north, I guess it's east. So with Scarborough Downs being improved and remaining, that future road really is in a district that we haven't planned yet, off of the map, if you will. So certainly there will be interconnections between all the districts at the end of the day, but at this point, that's outside of the scope of this plan development.
Okay. The wetland areas that you're showing on the map, are you going to be doing anything with them for community use as you've done with the prior wetland pond and back of Hayloft?
The natural wetlands or the gravel wetland stormwater?
I think I'm
features?
talking about the gravel wetland that in back of the Hayloft apartments.
Okay.
And that's set up as a specific open space and a gathering place.
Mhm.
And as I look at the two wetlands that you have here, are you going to consider doing anything that make them attractive as a gathering place, or are they going to be basically off limits? And
The one that's, if you're talking about the man-made stormwater gravel wetlands, right?
yeah, well, I'm
Um,
assuming that's what I'm looking at on page 27.
Yeah, they're the blue features on this plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're looking in particular, the one on the right on this plan, the opportunities for a kind of a trail system around it so that it can be incorporated into the overall trail system and can kind of plant the edge so it looks like a more natural wetland. So that's our intention there. It's not necessarily going to be designed like a park like the one that's by Hayloft. But I think we want to incorporate walking paths around it and a nice edge to it. The other one really is kind of, we haven't gotten that far. It's kind of back of house, if you will. It's tucked away, the one on the left. So we haven't really programmed it yet and thought about it in the same way that first one.
I was thinking if is it the 31 house? Is that going to be near that first?
Oh, 3I.
Yeah.
That's going to be close to the one on the right on this plan. Yeah.
So to make that very much handicapped accessible to the folks from that apartment house, if that's where it's going in.
You mean the trail is what
The
you're talking
trail,
about?
right.
Yeah.
In other words, design it with the residents in mind.
Mhm.
If that's where I'm assuming that that's going to be near the area that
It
development is
would
going
be
in.
behind that site. So we can work with Drew on on some things that could accommodate their access to it.
I think that would be very important, very attractive to
Mhm.
folks. I guess I had just a sense of, I know you're going to get to phasing ultimately. Do you have any concept right now about what you're going to be coming to us with in terms of phasing?
Yeah, I mean, I can use this plan to illustrate, but we're anticipating the first phase to include, if you can see my cursor, okay, extending Scarborough Downs Road up to the intersection with Market Street and then completing Market Street, making that connection out to where Market Street right now is partially built. Right now it's partially built to, just the town center side of the stream. So we want to make that connection for a variety of reasons. It's actually required in our traffic permit to do it by 26. I mean, we would do it a bit early, certainly, but we want to meet that obligation. And also really to have good access to the first end users in the town center, some of which we hope to be commercial, to have that easy access from Higas Parkway. And so that's definitely what our target is, at least those two road segments. We may do more for reasons of infrastructure and sort of the efficiency of doing additional infrastructure or, additional demand based on other end users that want to kind of move forward. But that's at a minimum our intention.
All right, I had something else that I'm trying to think what it was. I know my colleagues really addressed a lot of the questions that I had. No, I think that's it. That's it for me. I really appreciate the consideration, the care that you put into this and the direction that you're going. It's very nice to be able to see now how things are going to work together, how the connections are going to be made. We're at that stage where all of a sudden people are going to see a lot more of the thought behind the downs. Because we will see things connected. We will see Higas connected with, I assume, Allagash coming to us at some point.
Hope soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people get a sense of not the sort of anxiety, what's going to be there, what isn't going to be there, what are we going to see? They will actually start to see this vision come together. So I really appreciate the work that's been done here. I believe we do not take a vote at this time. Do we?
Yeah, I think you got to approve a master plan.
You do, but I don't think that you all are ready. No, I think we need to see in terms of the presentation, we need to see some of the things we've talked about. We need to see the connections that you're talking about. We need to get a sense of the phasing. Rick has made some good suggestions in terms of three-phase. See more about the trails. What else we looking for, guys? Roger would like to see the golf carts.
I'm just warning you.
Yeah, that I believe you.
Just to wrap everything up.
I think, yeah, to pull it all together, the discussion that we've had.
Okay.
You got everything, Rick.
Yeah, we really we're really seeing things come together. I would like to see that in written form.
Sure. Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
We customarily take a break at 8:30. It's possible we will be going home at 8:30. Staff report.
So the next planning board meeting will be Monday, November 21st. We have also issued building permits for Avesta at Firehouse Village. If some of you have driven by, you've probably known that they've started work there. The ordinance committee has also forwarded the site plan ordinance amendment language pertaining to multiple single-family dwellings on one lot to the town council, which will be November 9th. And then lastly, discussion of the 2023 schedule. I don't know if anybody has any comments or would like to speak to it a little more, but you should all have a copy that was provided in your packets.
I had that, and my comments, just to remind folks that that is now available. Put it in your phones if that's your calendar. And note that there are 2 times that we will meet on a Tuesday. And we don't have to worry about Halloween in 2023.
Madam Chair, can I add to staff
Certainly.
comments? I just had 2 things. I just wanted, just for the public benefit and planning board. Tomorrow night, Gorham Road, we are planning a closure. It will be open to local traffic if you're living along Gorham Road, as well as emergency vehicles, but through traffic will be stopped from 8 p.m. Wednesday night till 6 a.m. Thursday morning in order to do a required kind of switch over of the sewer line. It's part of the project that's obviously been going on out there of replacing the sewer line. No sewer will be interrupted, so that residents shouldn't see that other than the noise and lights of construction at night, which I can appreciate is not probably easy to deal with, but is a necessity in order to upgrade that infrastructure. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out. We do have it on our town website, as well as social media has been pushing that out. And it went out again today, so you could see that. The second thing was that we have developed a transportation project map and how it relates to planning board. I guess wanted to throw out there on our town webpage. It's on the original or the homepage, what's happening, but you can also find it through the engineering page. Is a list, well, it's a map, interactive map that you can click on that identifies 3 categories: town-led projects, state-led projects, and private development-led projects. I think we get a lot of questions at anything in the right of way. People are questioning or calling about what is the town doing with this or that. And many times it's not the town's project. And I know you guys are more familiar than most residents knowing, oh, that's the Downs, or that's Dunstan Crossing, or that's the new Starbucks, knowing you're kind of more in the know than most of the residents. And so I think the goal is to try to get that information out. This is a brainchild of the Transportation Committee, and which I know Roger and Jen are, I think, seeing it from both sides, Planning Board as well as Transportation Committee. And so I see this as whatever kind of we know in planning and engineering now is there for public consumption, and trying to get as much information out as we can. So if you have any questions as you go through that, just let me know. But as you guys approve things, even things that are not like a TMP, a traffic movement permit, things like Sawgrass doing sidewalk, which was only required by the planning board, that's on there. Things like that, things that are happening within the town right away. So that was my comment. Just wanted to let you know.
All right, thank you. Administrative amendment report.
So staff on Friday approved a 1,848 square foot modular trailer at Abbott Labs down on Southgate Road at the rear of their building. It replaces a slightly, I think it might have been a 1,600 square foot trailer that was in a different part of the parking lot, but the 1,800 square foot trailer would then be going in. We're looking at a seawall on Champion Street, as well as Blue Ocean Seafood down on Pine Point Road, reorienting their loading dock to accommodate 2 trucks, basically swinging it 90 degrees so that it could handle 2 vehicles instead of 1 for their needs. So that's what we're looking at.
Just so the planning board knows, when a minor development review comes up that might be considered marginal between a minor and a major, the staff usually contact me and I talk it through and see if it should be left with the staff or something should come before the board. There are some rules, but in other cases, it's kind of gray area. Correspondence.
Sorry, I don't think we got to minor.
Sorry, minor development reviews. Did you finish?
Yep, so the Throttle Garage on down on the Innovation District had an application for a minor site plan amendment to expand their footprint to accommodate some utilities that was withdrawn. We worked with Costco for their wall sign to get a waiver for that, to make sure that they could put in what was permitted. And that's it for minor. Thank you.
Thank you. Correspondence.
None.
None. Planning board comments. Roger?
Just a few, just a couple actually. For staff on the AR building impact fees, this is just kind of curiosity. Are those impact fees going towards the, are they going into new accounts? Because I noticed when Rachel was reading the, the draft motion, that there were different phases. In other words, are we starting new impact fee?
I'm
funds?
sorry. The impact fees, there are multiple for Payne Road. There's, we've closed out some over the
Yeah.
years, but there's always been, those are still in place.
Okay,
So you saw what she was reading, that hasn't changed.
okay. Are there any of those going towards the major traffic movement plan that's related to the
Well, I can
towns?
say currently, like, as an example, Payne Road District 5 is actually funding the town-led project out
Okay.
at North Scarborough.
Okay,
That those improvements, which the Downs is also doing some work within that area, but the funds are going towards the town portion of that project.
okay, all right.
So not necessarily, no.
All right. The other question I had is that regarding when we had the joint workshop with the Mercedes dealership. A couple of the counselors brought up streamlining that contract zone process from 10 steps. When there's basically minor changes, like what we're confronted with on this project. And has anything happened with that, or is no movement on that at all?
No, not at this point.
Okay, I think it was only affecting dealerships, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the question around that surrounds the specific contract zone language, like at least for Mercedes-Benz, the contract zone spells out the exact square footage.
Yeah.
So that could be part of the issue in some of these agreements, but yeah,
That'd be something that'd be initiated by the town council, I would imagine.
it would have to be, yeah.
Okay. The only other comment I wanted to make is, you mentioned Investor across the street. I noticed that today, but also, the project behind Little Dolphin.
Jocelyn Place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, they're doing work there, so
Mhm.
that's good. I'm all set. Thank you.
Rick, number one. Remember, it's the one closest to me.
All right,
I
got
know you're
confused
not
on the number
accustomed.
You're her number one, Rick.
I
got
know
confused
you're
on the
not
numbers.
accustomed to this, but go ahead.
I have nothing to add,
All right.
other than Roger did a great job.
Rick, number two.
The only thing I have is, I hope the nomination committee, realizes that we're losing two board members here and, that they're, looking into that, and, any citizens that want to join the planning board, I think, we're hiring sign can go out. Just like it is everywhere else.
Yes, and I have screamed occasionally at the committees about filling the board.
Yep.
And do you have anything else, Rick, number two? Because Roger wants to speak again.
Typical, Roger likes to.
I
I'll give the microphone back to him.
Okay, Roger, you have the microphone.
just wanted to add what, to what Angela had said earlier about the transportation map. It's also on the, in the bulletin. That- Okay,
The newsletter.
The newsletter, yeah.
Link. Yep.
and it's a terrific map, so, you take a look at it, and if you don't get the bulletin, get the bulletin.
The only comment, I guess, that I have is, I don't know how carefully folks were listening to Dan Bacon, but roughly what he was saying is there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming to us. And as the town center opens up, so it sounds as though January and February are going to be loaded. So just look at the time now.
Plan vacation.
And I would assume in January and February, this will be break time and not time to adjourn. Do I hear a motion?
I'll motion to adjourn or second.
First, motion to adjourn from Rick one. Roger, go ahead.
Second.
Seconded by Roger. Everybody in favor, raise your hands. We are adjourned.
Nice.